May I begin by giving deep thanks to the permanent mission of the Holy See Geneva, the Order of Malta, the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees, the permanent mission of Italy, and the permanent mission of Switzerland for the opportunity to address this important event with my voice, lived experience, and expertise. My name is Kendall Alaimo. I'm an artist, an international activist, an educator on the impacts of trauma, and a survivor of child trafficking and re-exploitation. As a survivor of trafficking, my life has been deeply impacted as a result of my own slavery. And it's my mission to use my voice, knowledge, and art to ensure people all over the world obtain their human right to freedom, and that people impacted by complex trauma worldwide have the resources and the community support they need to heal both their minds and bodies from their lives' adversities. As an artist, I'm most known for using my iconic red seats and for my painting titled Survivor Voices Lead the Way, which is housed in the United Nations headquarters and is hanging in the office of the President of the General Assembly's boardroom in order to foster dialogue on solutions to trafficking in persons. I also consider my speaking performative and have had the honor of addressing these pressing human rights issues globally and in different cultural contexts. It's an honor to make a virtual address at the Migrants, Refugees, Migrant Smuggling And Trafficking in Persons event today at the United Nations offices in Geneva, Switzerland. We must work to better explore and understand the real intersectionalities that are driving increasing numbers of migrants, refugee flows, and vulnerable persons becoming victims of modern-day slavery. I recently had the pleasure of speaking at the French Embassy on the sexual exploitation occurring in conflict zones. While we know war drives sexual exploitation, we also know war is a catalyst for people to flee their countries of origin, thus becoming migrants. Secondarily, we understand climate change's role in driving refugee flows as climate-affected individuals seek food-producing land, water, safe temperatures, and a climate which can sustain their human right to life. We cannot address these intersectionalities without also highlighting global poverty and lack of economic opportunity as an additional cause that drives mass movement of people that seek opportunity within or outside of their international borders. In the human trafficking prevention sector, fellow experts are well aware of how vulnerable to trafficking individuals and communities are that lack any pathway to decent work and economic independence. When these populations actively seek work from a place of desperation, they are more likely to be met by traffickers that come along with glamorous false job offers, resulting in trickery, deception, and ultimately situations of indefinite slavery for these individuals. This is why governments around the world must not overlook the importance of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 8, which calls for creating pathways to decent work and to target this goal by the year 2030, which will aid in the prevention of exploitation and sale of human beings. To those outside of our field, they may see slavery in a historical framework, but we know there is more slavery in our world today than ever before in human history. And the Global Slavery Index indicates we now have 50 million people around the world currently being trafficked. Make no mistake, and let me be clear, that global poverty, war, and climate change are all driving incidences of modern-day slavery and at rapid levels. We must also highlight the UN Sustainable Development Goal target number 3.4, which calls on governments to promote mental health. In the context of trafficking survivors, we must push for more dialogue on not only understanding the unique psychopathology that results from slavery, but also call on universities to produce more needed ethical and trauma-informed clinicians to serve this population. More research on complex trauma and dissociation, innovation of care, and for governments to contribute funds to create access to cost-free care. We cannot allow trafficking survivors to be sold against their will and then left to pay medical bills directly produced as a result of the crimes their traffickers committed against them. After exit from trafficking, these survivors are not truly free. as they then become slaves to their own tremendously difficult recovery. And even if left unemployed, in truth and in reality, their full-time jobs then become managing post-traumatic flashbacks of the lives they lived, experiencing the darkest and the worst humanity had to offer them. Debilitating narratives of enslavement that can also leave them disabled. In this context, I want to celebrate the OSCE for their recent report and publication on the nexus of disability and human trafficking, which I consulted on and contributed my art to. When I gave a keynote at the OSCE Human Dimensions Conference in Poland, I called for the World Health Organization to consider creating a new international classification of disease code to formally identify the unique pathology of slavery. This needs to be done to give scientific credibility and global visibility to the real lifetime impacts slavery has on individuals who should have remained free. My suggestion would be for the World Health Organization to develop a new ICD code that serves as an umbrella code where other pre-existing codes can be placed under in order to highlight the full-scale picture of the clinical presentation that results from contemporary slavery. We cannot allow survivors in our country's borders to remain internally displaced people, lacking access to clinical care, restorative justice, and social reintegration. In the collection of the Louvre Museum in Paris is a sculpture titled The Dying Slave by artist Michelangelo, a sculpture of a man captured at the time of his own death, putting an end to his struggle for existence after the effects of his own bondage. We cannot let these survivors face the same fate. My dream is to create artwork to foster sustainability of dignified lives of survivors of slavery, to drive solutions to combat our world's most pressing human rights issues today. When we do not have the answer, I believe the answer lies within art. I recently gifted artwork titled The Plan to the OSCE and shipped it to the Hofburg Palace in Vienna to the OSCE offices, where it now hangs. This artwork features my iconic red seats and is a step-by-step plan for how governments can support survivors of slavery living with trauma-based disabilities. This week, when I was out walking my dog, I thought about the word plan. P-L-A-N. What could this stand for? Then it occurred to me, people like action now. And these people are survivors of slavery looking for resources to obtain sustainable freedom and full healing. Governments must take action now. And as an artist with lived experience of slavery, it's my social responsibility to also take action now. I know dreams are just wishes without plans. And I'm currently making a second plan to develop a major art initiative to ensure people around the world remain free. When this video airs in the UN Geneva, I will be on the ground in Vienna, Austria, having meetings with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, the French Embassy, and the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe to take steps to develop a plan to create a major art initiative to scale needed impact and to visit my dear friends in this fight for freedom. I would have loved to be there in person with you all today in Geneva, but I want to thank each and every one of you for all the work you're doing each day to ensure migrants, refugees, and vulnerable individuals affected by complex global issues remain free from trafficking. In closing, as I record this here in Chicago, Illinois, United States, I'm reminded that I live and do this art and activism from the land of Lincoln. I will end with a quote by President Abraham Lincoln. If slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong. A very big thank you to everyone today in attendance who is working to make this world right. It was a pleasure to be with you all in this capacity today. Thank you for having me.